Let's call the roll here, please. Thank you.
Calling the roll for the Monday, May 6, 2024 Board of Control meeting. It is 11:03 a.m. We have Levine Ross serving as an alternate for Meredith Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Dale Miller.
Present.
Trevor Meckler serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones Jr.
Here.
Melanie Say serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Michael Chambers, Fiscal Officer, serving as chairman.
Here.
Paul Porter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the review and the approval of the minutes from April 29th. I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Let's go to our first item.
First item, new item for review, BC 2024-330, Department of Public Works recommending an award on RQ 14227 and submitting a purchase order with Tim Lally Chevrolet Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $260,000 for the purchase of 10 new, never titled 2024 Chevy Equinoxes for use by the Sheriff's Department.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is an award recommendation, Tim Lally. This is the order of 10 Chevy Equinoxes to be used by a sheriff's K-9 unit. We did this as a formal bid. We had one bid response, and the bid came in just about $11,000 under the initial estimate.
Thank you, Tom. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Let the record reflect Katie Gallagher is now serving as an alternate for Chris Forney, County Executive.
Here.
Next item, BC 2024-331, Department of Public Works submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Vance Outdoors Incorporated, DBA Vance's Law Enforcement, in the amount not to exceed $12,983.75 for state contracts purchase of 13 Safari Land Body Armor Ballistic Level 3A bulletproof vests, including external carrier and plates, for use by the Cuyahoga County Animal Shelters Dog Wardens, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is an award recommendation to Vance Outdoors. It's for the bulletproof vest. These are replacements for the dog wardens at the animal shelter. It's being procured off of the state of Ohio contract, which, you know, those are previously bid and are negotiated out. And this is the same vendor that provides the bulletproof vest for the sheriff's office as well.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Levine Ross. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2024-332, Department of Public Works submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to DBT Transportation Services LLC in the amount not to exceed $24,267 for maintenance and data services on the automated weather observation and Navid systems at the Cuyahoga County Airport, effective upon contract signatures of all parties for a period of 3 years, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Tom Pavich, Public Works again. This is a 3-year contract award recommendation to DBT Transportation. They provide the preventive maintenance and repairs for the county's airport. They have an AWAS system, which is their automated weather system that's installed at the airport. Provides real-time weather conditions, surface and air temperatures for all the planes coming in and taking off from the airport. It's their system, so that's who the contract is with them. They've got certified technicians that are qualified to work on that system.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the board?
Yes, how does the cost going forward compare to what we're currently paying?
It's right around the same. So we pay about $8,000 a year. A lot of the equipment, it's a fairly newer system. It was under warranty, so we had just paid for any major repairs. So now we want to get them under preventive maintenance schedule.
Any additional questions? Seeing no further, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-333, Department of Public Works submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Talal F. Hamad for limited beverage and food services at the Jane Edna Hunter Building for the period January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Tom Pavich, again, Public Works. This is approval of a 1-year contract with Talil Hamed. It's for the limited food services over at the Jane Edna Hunter Building. This contract is aligned with all the other related contracts that were impacted by the pandemic. We're trying to get them all on the same end date, which is the end of this year, while Public Works continues to work on a procurement process to get all of the cafe and vending services under one type of procurement process blanket.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Questions from the board?
Noting the January 1 start date, are they already in operation?
Yes, yes.
When did they start?
So the vendor's been there over the past few years on and off due to the pandemic. So there's been a lot of, the entire environment of cafes, food services, were really impacted by the pandemic. You know, there's a lot of fluctuation of staff in and out of buildings, foot traffic. So he's been there for some time, but not full-time, closed up shop several times. And this is just to get him under a full-year contract with the same end date with all the other cafes.
And have they been essentially operating under the same terms of this contract?
Dating back to this year, yes.
Right, okay.
Any further questions from the board?
One more question. Do we get any revenue?
Not from this one, no,
No,
no.
no, okay.
As we're moving towards the new RFP procurement, we're exploring, we're talking to different vendors and the existing vendors at other cafes that we have, and just trying to get a feel for how the environment's really been impacted by COVID and what how it's changed. So we're trying to determine how we release a new RFP, RFQ, and make that determination.
Mr. Mackler, please.
Tom, did they pay us any reimbursement for utility costs or anything to operate the cafe?
No. And this is a small area. This is, I think, 750 square feet maximum, so it's a very small area. It's limited food service. This isn't a full cafe, per se. It's one person, as needed stuff, grab and go. That's correct. Yep.
Seeing no further questions, I will make the motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Levine Ross. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next, item BC 2024-334, Department of Workforce Development submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Kirtland Consulting and the New Growth Group LLC in the amount not to exceed $74,500 for strategic planning, market research, facilitation, and support services for organizational restructuring effective March 11, 2024 through May 31st, 2025, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Deshaun Matthews, Department of Workforce Development. Under this agreement, the consultants will gather and access financial and programming data from other nonprofits in order to analyze national and local workforce trends. They will also utilize existing research, labor market, and economic data to present a current snapshot and trends of important factors impacting our region. And lastly, they will be conducting meetings with members of the Workforce Board to ensure stakeholder engagement with the goal of using all the information collected to form a strategic plan for our local workforce area.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are there questions from the board on this item?
Yes, please, I have one.
Please.
Is this a contract that's currently in place, or is this new?
It's currently, it's a new contract, but she is currently doing the work on it, but it is a new contract. I would say it was a new contract. I'm sorry.
I didn't come away real clear on that answer.
Sorry.
Did we have a contract like this in place previously, or is this a new undertaking?
This is a new contract.
Additional questions on this item?
Yes.
Please.
Do we anticipate using a contract like this on an ongoing basis, or is this more of a one-time thing to kind of assess where we are and where we should be going?
This is more of a one-time thing as we transition into a nonprofit. She's collecting data and helping us transition and collecting information so we can start off the nonprofit in the most productive way. But yeah, it's more of a temporary thing.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next, item BC 2024-335, Fiscal Office on behalf of the County Executive's Office submitting an amendment to a contract with Macaulay and Company LLC for federal lobbying, government relations services, and grant supportive services for the period March 8th, 2023 through March 7th, 2024, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2024, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $40,000.
Good morning, Dominique Tatum, Fiscal Office. This is a contract amendment with Macaulay for federal lobbying services. This is just an amendment to hold us over until we're done awarding the new contract.
Thank you, Dominique. Are there questions from the board?
Yes. I didn't hear the end of your statement. You said this is just to hold us over until.
We award the new contract to make sure we don't have a lapse in services.
And may I have a follow-up question?
Please, sir, please.
Would it make sense to end the contract at September 30th, which is the end of the federal fiscal year, or don't you think that makes any difference?
It necessarily doesn't really make a difference because we're gonna have them working for us full-time, so either way, it's fine.
And do we have an RFP in place being circulated for this?
We issued it already, so we're just now making awards.
And has the RFP closed?
Yes,
And how many bidders did you receive?
I think it was about 5 bids.
And have you made a choice, or are you still working on it?
A choice was made as well.
And who did you choose going forward?
It's the same vendor.
Okay, so there'll be a new contract for the same vendor?
Yes.
Going forward, okay. Okay, thank
If I
you.
could add a quick note there, it's important to make clear that an official award hasn't been made, and, it'll have to come before the Board of Control for a vote. And I don't know that respondents to the RFP received notice yet.
No,
that
they
an
did.
award. Okay, all right, good, thank you.
So, this means obviously that you were satisfied with their performance, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any additional questions? Seeing no further questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-336, Department of Purchasing submitting an RFP exemption which will result in a payment to Brinks US, a division of Brinks Incorporated, and the amount not to exceed $48,051.65 as final payment for armed guard and armored truck services for various county departments for the period January 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2024, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Paul Porter, Purchasing Department. This is a PO payment to Brinks for services rendered the first quarter of the year. We have a contract with Brinks that expired December 31st of last year. We've been in lengthy contract negotiations with them and had hoped to put a contract forward that would cover the time period. But we're continuing to have delays with language that their law department wants in the contract that we don't want in the contract. We've got another meeting with their attorneys tomorrow about that. So in the meantime, in order to avoid being too far behind on our payments, we wanted to bring forward a PO to pay the invoices already incurred. We are working with another vendor as well to potentially service some of our locations, and we're in the middle of contract negotiations with them. I do anticipate we will bring forward those contracts to Board of Control for approval. We are looking maybe at a 6/1 start date for both of those contracts. So more than likely, we would end up doing another PO to cover services rendered in the second quarter of 2024 by Brinks. So this will cover us fully for all the costs in the first quarter, though.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We good?
Yep.
Yep,
Uh,
okay.
any
No further
questions?
Yeah, any questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-337, Department of Information Technology submitting an amendment to a contract with Environmental Systems Research Institute Incorporated for maintenance and Argus software for the period January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2023, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2024, to change the terms effective upon contract signatures of all parties, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $64,198.29.
Good morning, Kristen Caspar with the Department of Information Technology. This request for contract amendment is for an approved IT standard. Esri ArcGIS does provide our GIS team with tools to capture, view, edit, manage, analyze, and store data in the context of location for GIS systems. This request is for Seventh Amendment.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Paul Porter. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-338, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Department of Public Works, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to M&J Technologies Direct Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $21,112 for a state contract purchase of Blue Beam annual software license subscriptions, 68 Review Core and 4 Review Complete for the period May 6, 2024 through May 5, 2025, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Kristen Caspar with the Department of Information Technology. This request is for Bluebeam software. Bluebeam will be used in conjunction with our Nitro software. This will help our Public Works, Architecture, Engineering, and Construction teams to connect their information when they're in the field as well as in the office so they can collaborate easier. It does also provide PDF management, control, and editing.
Thank you, Kristen. Questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-339, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Integrated Precision Systems Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $124,307.31 for a state contract purchase of various equipment, installation, and program services for one each intrusion alarm system and video recording server, 5-axis control panels, and 24-axis surveillance cameras for use at the Board of Elections early voting facility located at 1801 Superior Avenue, Cleveland, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Kristen Caspar with the Department of Information Technology. This request is for IT standard equipment for an alarm system for the 1801 Superior Avenue location. I do want to note that right now we are only requesting approval for this purchase order. We are aware that the 1801 Superior location has not been approved yet by council, so we will not execute a purchase order until we receive that information.
Thank you for the note, Kristen. Are there any questions from the board?
Just a comment. I think we should just hold the item until the legislation is passed in the council.
Mr. Miller, if I may say, we do have a 3-week lead time from the purchase of the equipment. So I do know that it's imperative that when it is approved, we have the ability to get that in and established as soon as possible, which is why we are requesting just the approval.
So, it could be on the agenda, for the Board of Control the week after the council meeting. Are you saying that that you're gonna move that fast after the council meeting? That
Yes, sir,
week
that's
makes
the
a
intention.
difference?
Yeah. If the PO is approved, we would have that in that holding state and Infor. We would not execute or send anything to the vendor until we hear from council that it has been approved for the location.
And we can request that, PO and not through council, so that there's no, the process or approved in it.
So, the other question I have about this is that even if the council approves it, we don't have a decision yet as to whether we're gonna do early voting at 1801 Superior in this year. I presume we'd be only moving forward immediately on this contract if we're doing early voting in 2024 at 1801 Superior, is that correct?
I believe this was the intention for early voting. However, the equipment will need to be in place at that location once it's fully operational.
I wasn't clear on your answer. Was that a yes or a no?
Yes, the intention was for the early voting.
May I interject?
Please.
I know there are a lot of factors that would have to fall into place in order for early voting. This is just one of a dozen. I think, it's a kind of a chicken or an egg kind of thing. You have to keep, they're just trying to keep the process moving along, in conjunction with knowing where their council is. But there might be 5 other things that kind of fall on its face to make it not even practical to have early voting. So the team is just kind of like, what are these 10 things or 12 things that we have to do? Keep moving them along, and then they're gonna have, it's a game day decision whether this is going to work out or not.
For now, I'd like to suggest a compromise. And the compromise is that we hold it for 1 week. That's still, it doesn't affect anything because it would still be before the council meeting. And I want, I want to take this time and try to get some more information as to whether this makes sense to proceed prior to approval.
Okay, let's hold it for a week.
Mr. Chair, just to add, plan is that the committee of the whole on Tuesday, the 14th, this will be discussed. I know the administration has asked for a potential referral out of committee that day, so this would still happen before, if we put it on for next Monday, will still happen before the Tuesday council meeting.
Okay, all right. The item's held. Let's go on to the next item.
Next, item BC 2024-340, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Medical Examiner's Office, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in award recommendation to M&J Technologies Direct Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $13,000 for a state contract purchase of 10 Meraki Catalyst tri-band wireless access points and 10 Meraki MR Enterprise Cloud Controller licenses for a period of 5 years, effective Board of Control approval, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. So we are installing these access points for wireless access in the laboratories. When we designed the original forensic labs, we kept Wi-Fi out for security reasons. More of the equipment, though, however, needs access to the internet, and folks who are working at their desks can wirelessly now pull data directly from the equipment that they were working on in the lab. IT's kind of assured us now that the security measures that are in place are more than sufficient, so we're able to move ahead with this and put these wireless access points in the laboratories now.
Okay, Hugh, thank you. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next, item BC 2024-341, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Advisec Technologies in the amount not to exceed $21,805.27 for the purchase of 8 Synergy dual-rank registered smart memory kits and 1 HPE Gen 10 server, various accessories, including a 1-year warranty on the hardware, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Kristen Caspar with the Department of Information Technology. As Cheryl just said, this request is for an IT standard approved server blade with additional memory.
Thank you, Kristen. Any questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Levine Ross. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next, item BC 2024-342, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to SHI International Corporation in the amount not to exceed $7,141.93 for the purchase of maintenance and support services of the XIA network taps for the period September 28, 2023 through January 27, 2025, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Kristen Caspar with the Department of Information Technology. This purchase is for our Exia network taps. These are taps that support our intelligent bypass switch. The bypass switch protects network links for inline tool deployments. It provides a fail-safe patch for network traffic, basically.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-343, Department of Human Resources submitting an amendment to a contract with Clemens Nelson and Associates Incorporated for Human Resources Consulting Services for the period November 7, 2023 through November 6, 2024, to change the terms by removing the reference to $975 per month, effective upon contract signatures of all parties, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $50,000.
Stephen Witt with Human Resources. This is an amendment to our contract with Clemens Nelson for HR consulting services. The primary ask here is the additional $50,000 not to exceed. As we continued to use the services from Clemens Nelson, we found that the majority of use is covered under the retainer, which was paid in full, which is why the $975 a month has been removed from the contract language. But we have found that we can utilize Clemens Nelson for investigations to kind of take ourselves out and bring a third-party, impartial party in. We've already contracted them for one of these investigations, but they are quite expensive. We have another pending investigation that we'd like to get underway. So these funds will help carry us through for any additional investigations as we prepare to issue an RFP for these services. The RFP is drafted, it just has not gone through the procurement process as of yet.
Okay, Stephen, thank you. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Paul Porter. All in favor to approve, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item, BC 2024-344, Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Court Division recommending awards and enter into agreements with various municipalities in the total amount not to exceed $12,000 for community diversion program services for the period January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, as listed for items A through C on the printed agenda.
Good morning, Terra Juvenile Court. These are 3 of our community diversion program contracts. These contracts are late just due to loss of staff, but we have added a new contract specialist, and I believe we have 16 pending and in for in various levels of the approval process. These contracts are for a year, so we will be coming back next year, hopefully to do 2-year agreements.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Councilman?
These are routine items, and I'll move approval.
Move for approval. Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-345, County Prosecutors submitting an RFP exemption which will result in award recommendation to Siacom Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $8,400 for the purchase of 1 licensed dongle and 3 one-year Siacom Examiner Plus licenses for use by the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Justin Rotilli with the County Prosecutor's Office, Ohio ICAC Task Force. This license aids in prosecution for child sex abuse crimes. The software helps detect illegal content and indecent images of children on suspects' computers. The tool will be a standalone program as well as in concert with the Data Pilot 10, which is a forensic hardware and software tool that aids the Ohio ICAC Task Force in investigations, detection, and prosecution of offenders who use the internet to exploit minor children.
Okay, Justin, thank you. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-346, Sheriff's Department submitting an RFP exemption which will result in award recommendation to Vance Outdoors Incorporated, DBA Vance's Law Enforcement, in the amount not to exceed $246,355.20 for a state contract purchase of 416 each Safariland M-Series concealable body armor carriers and Prism Spike 3-panel sets for use by the Corrections Office staff, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Chris Costin, Sheriff's Department. This award will allow the purchase of up to 416 stab-proof vests for our correction officers. These purchases will be off state contract price.
Thank you, Chris. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item's approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-347, Medical Examiner's Office submitting an RFP exemption which will result in award recommendation to Evidence Scientific Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $14,325.84 for a joint cooperative purchase of one each Olympus BX43 forensic pathology microscope and HD presentation camera, various parts and accessories, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. So good news is we have identified and hired our medical staff back after a couple of years being down 3 doctors. So come this summer, we'll be fully staffed again. And we will also have 2 visiting fellows in training, which means we're short a microscope. So we needed to get a new forensic microscope, and this one comes with capabilities to be able to share the images on video screens.
Thank you, Hugh. Are there questions from the board? Mr. McAleer, please.
Hugh, are the employees you hired, are they coming from other jurisdictions? Are they recently graduated? Where'd you get them from?
So we have one of our fellows in training that we are going to be holding on to, so she's already agreed to stay on after her training session's over this summer. The other 2, one is coming from Miami and the other is coming from New York, and they're also finishing their training, but one is already a certified forensic pathologist. So.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Additional
We're happy.
questions, Councilman?
Yes. So, as I recall, because of the difficulty in filling these positions, we did not budget for them. But we kind of put out the word that you were free to fill them if you could find them. And so my question is whether, if you have an estimate for the additional cost that will be incurred for the remainder of 2024.
So I just had the meeting with our budget staff to go over the first quarter projections, and we're discussing that at the moment. It's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 in salary plus fringes, and we're gonna get an exact number shortly.
Okay. Glad you got them filled.
Thank you.
Now, Hugh, is that an annual projection or just for the rest of this year?
That was for the rest of this year. That was the question. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think the annual's gonna be $1 million or more.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-348, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, on behalf of the Medical Examiner's Office, recommending an award and enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga County Board of Health in the amount not to exceed $192,514.45 for the Cuyahoga County Overdose Fatality Review Counteractive Initiative Project in connection with the FY 2023 Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Use Site-Based Grant Program for the period October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2026.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. So over the years of the opioid crisis, our office has conducted these fatality reviews for quite some time. The federal government now is playing catch up, trying to collect data, better data, and have sent along a number of grants now that support a lot of the work that our office, in conjunction with other members of the opioid task force, have been doing for a long time. So this will help us collect and properly package the data from the fatality reviews for use in public policy.
Thank you again, Hugh. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Yes, I have a question.
Please.
What is the trend on opiate fatalities so far in 2024?
So we're obviously only 4 months in, but right now they are trending downward. Actually, the last 6 months have trended downward. They're still at unacceptably high levels. We're still 550 to 600 fatalities on the projection. But it is lower than it has been in past years. We were 636 last year, 645 the year before, so it's at least it's leveled out, and there are a combination of reasons for that. We're working with our partners now to try to get analysis of the last 6 months that has been trending downward, the reasons why, whether there have been interdictions that overseas or combinations of various factors. We're not entirely sure yet.
Okay, well, that's good news. Hope that continues.
Okay, any additional questions from the board? Seeing no further questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2024-349, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services recommending an award and submitting a contract with Digital Stakeout Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $13,260 for a web-based social media aggregation and threat detection tool and 8 user licenses for use by the Northeast Ohio Regional Fusion Center for the period May 15, 2024 through May 14, 2025.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. And this is a tool that the Fusion Center uses in their counterterrorism efforts. It is grant funded. We did issue an informal request for proposals. We received 10 responses and are making a recommendation to award to the lowest cost vendor. Both the Fusion Center and Ohio EMA have approved the award.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Levine Ross. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2024-350, Department of Health and Human Services submitting an amendment to a grant agreement with Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging to support various mission activities as listed in items A through C on the printed agenda for the period October 17, 2022 through December 31st, 2023 to extend the time period to December 31st, 2024. No additional funds required.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services. Again, this is a grant agreement with Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging for 3 programs, Nails It, Going Places, and the Great Grocery Giveaway. These programs are funded under the ARPA funding that we received several years ago. We executed this agreement on behalf of County Council back in 2022. This vendor has not yet expended the entire amount of the funds and have asked it for an extension in order to fully spend down the grant funds. We work with council staff to ensure that they were okay with this.
Thank you, Marcos. Are there questions from the board? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-351, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, recommending an award and enter into a contract with Cleveland East Hotel LLC in the amount not to exceed $27,368.95 for rental of space, audio, visual, catering, and related services for the 2024 Aging and Disability Summit to be held at Marriott Cleveland East, located at 26300 Harvard Road, Warrensville Heights, on September 27, 2024, effective upon contract signatures of all parties through October 31st, 2024.
Good morning again, Marcos Cortez. On behalf of Senior and Adult Services, we issued an informal RFP for vendors for the DSAS Annual Aging and Disability Summit to be held on September 27th. We received 4 proposals. The Marriott offered us the best option of those 4.
Okay, thank you, Marcos. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-352, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Mental Health Services for Homeless Persons Incorporated, DBA Frontline Service for eviction prevention services in connection with the Alternative Housing and Related Services and Support for COVID Recovery Continuum of Care Program for the period January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, to change the terms of Exhibit 2 budget effective upon contract signatures of all parties and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $34,053.
Marcos Cortez again on behalf of the Office of Homeless Services. This is a contract amendment with Mental Health Services for the homeless persons for eviction prevention services. This program was originally part of another ARPA-funded contract last year, but we pulled it out as its own contract because of some particular reporting needs. So we are, it was funded for ARPA part of this year, and we're adding some additional dollars from the levy to continue this through the end of '24. The vendor has additionally secured other funding to help this continue into 2024, through 2024 and beyond, but we will also continue to provide levy dollars after 2024 as well.
Thank you, Marcos. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Melanie Say. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-353, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Reentry, submitting an amendment to a contract with Oriana House Incorporated for administration and operation of the Neighborhood Reentry Resource Center and the Adult Transition Model for the period July 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2024, to expand the scope of services effective upon contract signatures of all parties and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $100,000.
This is a contract amendment with Oriana House for the operation of the North Star Neighborhood Reentry Resource Center. North Star is a welcoming facility for reentrants and their families and provides information about services and opportunities available in the community. This amendment will take us through the end of this year. We will be issuing a new RFP later this year for these services.
Thank you, Marcos. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Moving on to exemptions.
Exemptions, first item, BC 2024-354, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, recommending an alternative procurement process to a master contract, which will result in award recommendations to 3 new providers for the Community Social Services Program for the period January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2025, and the total amount not to exceed $502,000 as listed for items A through C on the printed agenda.
We issued the CSSP RFP last year, Community Social Services Programs RFP last year on behalf of DSAS, and we entered into contracts with 30 vendors for these services, which include adult day service, adult development, meals, transportation, and others. We received recently additional grant funds from the state, and we also had some additional levy dollars restored back to the DSAS budget. So we are adding these 3 vendors to the CSSP master agreement.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I will make the motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-355, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, recommending an alternative procurement process to approve the determination of awards based on an informal solicitation process of various vendors who serve older adults to address social determinants of health and enhancing the quality of life in connection with the Healthy Aging Grant Program for the period May 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024, which will result in award recommendations in the total amount not to exceed $1,638,263.
As I just mentioned, we received funding from the state through the Healthy Aging Grant. We plan on issuing new contracts that do not necessarily fall under any of our other current master contracts for these funds. We completed an informal solicitation process for these new vendors.
Thank you, Marcos. Are there any questions from the board on this particular item? Seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Levine Ross. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-356, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, recommending an alternative procurement process for approval of a solicitation of funding opportunities released via email from various housing and urban development approved providers in Cuyahoga County to provide permanent supportive housing services to chronically homeless single adults and high-barrier homeless persons for the period July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026, as listed for items A through F on the printed agenda.
In order to be considered for permanent supportive housing, vendors need to be on a pre-approved list from the Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Homeless Services will conduct a solicitation process to those pre-approved vendors. However, this is not an opportunity for new vendors to apply for permanent supportive housing, but rather it's a method to determine the allocation of funding for the existing providers based on previous performance.
Thank you, Marcos. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Yes.
Councilman.
Why are we restricting this to existing vendors?
I'm not fully aware of the reason for that. I'd have to get back to you on that one.
Is the reason a local decision, or is it embedded in?
It could potentially be that these are the only ones on the pre-approved list. I mean, like I said, they have to be pre-approved by HUD. I don't know if there's other vendors out there that could provide these services. I'd have to check on that.
Marcos, if I could weigh in, the last time this was done, it was the vendors that had been pre-approved by HUD, and that happened to be the vendors we were already working with. So that's the case from the last time around. I'm assuming it's probably similar, but it wouldn't hurt to double check. And that's based on HUD's criteria for how we spend the funding. We can't award the funding to somebody who's kind of not on their pre-approved list.
Okay, so I would like, if you would get back to me with further information on that, but I'm ready to vote for the item today.
I will get it back to you today.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Moving on.
Moving on to consent agenda items, BC 2024-357 through BC 2024-359.
Okay, I don't see 59 though. Am I missing that?
I'll make a motion to,
Yeah.
I'll
page
make a
10.
motion
My bad.
to approve the consent agenda.
We got a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All in favor to approve today's consent agenda items, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are approved. Any other business?
No other business?
Any public comment?
No public comment?
I will make the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Melanie Say. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.